Hi everybody, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today is going to just sort of be a reset and catch up for the month. I've been away for 2 weeks. I think I might potentially knock the videos down at least during the summertime to maybe like one every 2 weeks. I've been consistently producing a video since January, and I'm really excited with how the growth of my channel is. I'm almost at 800 subscribers as of this recording. But sometimes kind of umming up with content and, fitting it in with, being a full-time mom and a part-time PA, sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. And I still want this to be fun. So I'm going to potentially, maybe not do long-form content every week. Though I am playing around a little bit with shorts and such. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But I figured today I just, kind of do sort of sit and chat and talk about, what I've been up to and some of the things I've been working on. So a little storytelling, if you will. I apologize if I sound a little hoarse or if you catch me drinking out of my cup quite frequently today. I actually was going to record yesterday, and around 11:30 I started getting really nauseated, and then the next thing I know I was throwing up about every 15 minutes for the better part of 2 hours. I know I had mentioned on like a previous video that I'd had gastric sleeve surgery, just actually celebrated a 1-year anniversary, and I'm very happy. I've lost approximately 60 pounds depending on the day. I've actually hit sort of a set point the last 2 months and feel pretty good about my body. I mean, it's one of those where it's like the scale number could be lower. At the same time, I'm wearing size small, medium tops and, medium-sized pants. It's like, sooner or later, it's one of those where it's like the scale number might not be an accurate portrayal of things. Anyway, this was my first time having what I would call the stomach flu and like proper vomiting after surgery. I mean, occasionally I've had times where I've eaten too much, and it's almost like, like when you have a little baby and it's like you feed them too much and they just kind of spit up, and it's not as, crazy, but this run around, my abs are still sore, my throat is burning, and just, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. So if I look a little tired and drained and I sound a little hoarse, that's why, because I don't know if I had food poisoning or just like some viral gastroenteritis. I don't really know. But I'm not going to ick you guys out with the details. So, but needless to say, it was bad. So what else did I do the past couple of weeks? So I actually did this past Sunday, did my first half marathon that I've done in almost 7 years. So last one I did was actually before I got pregnant with my daughter, and we did the one down in Cincinnati. It's a really well-known half marathon, the Flying Pig. I think there were almost 12,000 participants in just the half marathon alone. So it was really funny because this is the first long race that my daughter really, kind of can remember and such. I've done, 10Ks here and there, but this is my first half since she was born. It's my 6th one overall, according to Runkeeper, which is kind of where I store everything. And it was just really funny because I was telling her, yeah, it's going to be a big race. There's going to be lots of people there. She's like, you're going to run with lots of people? I'm like, yeah. She's like, so like 15? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe add 3 zeros to that number. And that's probably how many people were on the course between, the half and the full. I'm sure I'm probably underestimating it, but this is my first time doing the Flying Pig since my first ever half marathon. That was my first ever half marathon. I did that back in 2012, so 12 years. Part of the reason why it's been 12 years since I've done it again is because Cincinnati is kind of hilly. Yeah, millions of years ago, there was a glacier that moved through the northern half of the U.S., created this, ground everything down, made nice flat areas, and then right before it hit Cincinnati, it stopped. And so Cincinnati is a ton of hills, and so it's the first 5 miles were good, and then mile marker 5.5 to say 8.5 was just pretty much straight uphill and absolutely exhausting. I ended up having to walk portions of it. I felt bad because I had been consistently running long distances, but it was too much. And what I didn't realize was, admittedly, the time that I was starting to like get a little tired and break down and all of that, I missed the message on my phone. They had actually sent out an alert that the course around 2 hours in had actually gone to red flag, which is sort of a grading system for the weather. So they have like, green, yellow, red, and black. And a red flagged course means that, the weather conditions have really kind of changed. They're not ideal for running. You should consider, slowing yourself down, listening to your body. If it gets to black flagged, they actually cancel the race and will essentially stop the runners or make people walk. So knowing that when I was struggling, up the hills and starting to feel the weather a bit, it was about halfway into my race because I was in like the last little corral. So even though the gun time was 6:30, it was about 6:54 by the time I actually crossed the starting line. That gives you an idea of how many people were in the race. It took that long to get to the back of us to start. So I was about halfway through my race at that point when it red flagged. So I feel a little better about having to have stopped and walked and all of that. I'm not fast by any stretch of the imagination. The best half marathon time I have ever done was in 2015, one of the marathons where I live. That was, I think, 3 hours and like not quite 15 minutes, somewhere around that. That's my best time. And I don't know what my worst time was, but my previous time on the Flying Pig course had been like 3:36. And I had been training really well. And one of the nice things is that I have consistently continued to run, even with the weight loss. So I've gotten much faster. So I was hoping to be closer to 3 hours, and I ended up being 3:20:44, which is still a PR on that course and still a really good time for me. I think it was, out of the 6, it was the third fast. I can't complain. It potentially, if it was really a humidity factor. It was just so humid. So that was adding to, even though the temp wasn't too terrible, I think that was adding to these course conditions. So I think if maybe the weather had been a tad better, I would have maybe even hit 3:15. My stretch goal was maybe I'll finish it in 3 hours, but not so much. So I don't know if I'm going to do one in the fall or not. It's quite a long run. I mean, for me, it's quite a long run. I mean, I can't possibly fathom how people do 26 miles. I really can't. Because, I mean, I was quite sore and exhausted after all of it. But you know what? I did it. In general, pretty happy with the results. And yeah, can't complain. So that's kind of what's been going on. I was, that was this past weekend. So kind of getting ready for that. That was partly why I didn't do a video last week. And also just kind of feeling that very introverted. I just can't get myself in front of the camera. So one of the alternatives that I've been doing for the fun of it lately, if you've noticed, is I've actually started posting some shorts. Sometimes I will also post them onto Instagram, which, by the way, if you aren't subscribed to my Instagram, if you could please take a moment and head over there. I am labcraft.studio over there. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to kind of get my following over there as well. That's really where I want to try and push my little store and my things that I'm going to make. And then, of course, behind the scenes stuff, as well as art that I'm doing. I feel like I'm trying to revive a dead Instagram account, and I keep putting Epi in it, and it's just not working. So if you could help me, I would really appreciate it. But anyway, I've been, playing around with shorts, and they've just kind of been like little fun clips of, hey, stuff that I'm, working on, really just playing around. There isn't really a target per se and all of that, but I've been doing a lot of them lately with showing off the enamel pins that I've kind of figured out how to do. In my last 2 videos ago, I showed you guys how to do an enamel pin with stickers, and lately I have figured out how to do enamel pins and printing them 3D wise. So these aren't stickers, these are just purely printed in color. Yep, you see? Kind of cute. But yeah, these are printed, and then I will coat them in UV resin. So I've just kind of been taking little clips here and there of me doing that. It's one of those where it's like trying to do a studio vlog with me working on them would be a little difficult, just because when I do it, I tend to, kind of implement all the obvious safety measures when you're working with any form of resin, UV or otherwise. So I'm like, I'm wearing a mask and gloves, and I usually put goggles on just as an added safety bonus. And I've got my air filter going. It's kind of hard to record and hear me in the process. So I usually just kind of have like my phone with a little camera on the side, catching little clips of things. I kind of, just started throwing those together and putting them to cute music, and they seem to be pretty popular. I've actually, my subscriber count's really grown from people that seem to like them. Now, granted, my entire channel isn't all about that, so they might just be, silent subscribers, or they might just tune in for, hey, what's cool on shorts that she's doing. I know the last one I posted featured my little peanut butter and jelly guys. Yeah. And yes, I did set that to the music of Peanut Butter Jelly Time. I think it got 6.4 thousand views, something like that, which I know is probably not impressive in shorts land, but for me it's kind of impressive. What I'm also thinking is over 6,000 people watched this, so 3,000 of them now have peanut butter jelly time stuck in their head. Yeah, maybe I'm just a little evil. So I'm curious, though, do you guys like these shorts? Are they, something entertaining, just 15-second clips of me playing around with the pins? I'm going to add other things. I'm going to do stickers and other vlog stuff. It's just, I've really been on an enamel pin kick. And I got to thinking these might make cute little gibbets, I think is what they're called. They're the little decorative things that go on the Crocs that people seem to have. I don't have a pair, but I figured, since, I put a different backing on them, you can just kind of you can either buy Crocs, or I actually printed these. I'm not entirely sold on the quality of the 3D. Again, it's still just the same, glue, epoxy, and, different purpose. I've also been taking the time to do a little more drawing, try and work on, some sticker creation and things like that. And a lot of the sticker designs I then am moving over and creating the enamel pins out of. So using kind of a process where I kind of convert my drawing into a DXF, which is a CAD file that I then pull into Shaper. And I'm going to do a tutorial on all of that down the line, but that's kind of been my process, and which is nice because it's okay, so the art's all cohesive and such. And you're probably wondering, why 3D print the pins? Why not have a manufacturer do it? And it's I like to do small batch things, and not necessarily having to bulk order things and such. And it's nice to be able to print these on demand and have them be made in my little shop. They're handmade. They're not enamel pins, but I try to really simulate that look and have it be inexpensive, and it's kind of cute. It's handmade essentially. So this is another design that I'm working on. It's sort of this nerdy unicorn. So I like how this one turned out. It's a little on the thin side. I can kind of see through it a little bit, so I need to adjust the layers a little bit. This was me playing around trying to get a technique where I wasn't having to flip the colors as frequently on my print. I did figure out a way to kind of sort of create the inside and then the outside, but I really struggle with it working for every pin. So this is what it is. It's the experiment, how can I do something? I like trying to figure things out and then run with it and make a bunch of different models and such. That'd be the cat if you hear that. What did you find? How do you manage to find the smallest little things and be entertained? It's either a tiny little ball, or somehow she manages to find a little, bamboo printer poo ball. It's how many times do we have to tell you, don't play with your poo? Don't play with the poo. But anyway, I'm bringing different items into my shop. I am going to add them to my Etsy shop as well as my Squarespace shop. And I also yesterday just got approval for the Fair marketplace, which does wholesaling. So I'm in the process of kind of photographing and uploading things there. I'm trying to really kind of diversify my income, because at this point, Etsy sales are just non-existent. I had one sale in April. One of my little Tumblr tags that I do. It's just simple little personalized piece of acrylic. And I don't even think I actually made any money on it, because Etsy did an offsite ad to bring it in. And that pretty much was my profit margin for that. So that was frustrating. I don't know what it is. It's just Etsy sales have just plummeted. And it's not I'm, not getting views. I'm still getting views, and I've added new things. I guess I need to start trying to drive my own traffic there. But at the same time, it's also frustrating because like Etsy's fees, really kind of take a bite into things. Like, for instance, like, I was setting up Fair yesterday and getting that going, and like, how much percentage it gets, and it bases it on, when it pays you out, and you can control it like either next day or 30 day or 60 day. And the percentages it takes are half of what Etsy takes. Plus, I'm not being charged every 20 cents every time I put a listing up, or if the listing expires after 3 months. I mean, I'm just being nickeled and dimed constantly with Etsy, and there is no traffic. Not to mention this fear of, is my shop going to get taken down, because there just seems to be random takedowns, and sometimes for no reason at all. I mean, I've tried very hard to play the copyright game and, not make, copyrighted items, even though you see all these shops with, things like Disney or anime. I mean, even fan art is technically considered copying, and it's very frustrating, because it's like, why can't, you're told not to do this, then you see these shops that are very successful, and you're like, no, don't do that, they're going to get taken down, and yet they have thousands and thousands of sales. Technically, I'm like writing a line of caution, because my Tumblr tags are designed to fit the Stanley cups that are so popular, and God forbid I use that in one of the Etsy tags, because people are going to search Stanley Tumblr tags. So it's like, what else are you supposed to do? How else are you supposed to define that is the item that it's for? Yeah, so I mean, trying to set up, alternative revenue streams is important. I have my website. It's been, up and running. I haven't gotten any sales through that yet. And again, I think that's just trying to drive traffic. And so I'm trying to do that here, as well as, trying to figure out an Instagram plan and drive traffic there. I actually tried last week to hook it up to my Instagram, and that you could, potentially purchase through the items through Instagram. That way you're not having to leave it. But I ran into a little bit of a problem. I have a Squarespace site. I, had previously had Shopify, and I just wasn't a huge fan of the interface, and I kind of liked the design of Squarespace and wanted to do that, and ended up, making the switch. I have bought a nice theme, and, it looks really nice, and I wanted to hook it up to my Instagram, and found out that I needed to, of course, upgrade my plan to add that feature, and it was like, okay, yay. And so I did that, and I fortunately had a coupon where it was reasonable cost to go ahead and just, upgrade the annual plan. And I go and set it up and hook it up to Instagram, decide to do like a, sort of a test charge to make sure it works. So like, sort of buy my product, because I have a second Instagram account, and I go to do that, and it gets stuck in Meta's interface and does not push through to Squarespace. And when I go and look through the wording and all of that, Squarespace says you need to set it up so that, when they go to buy a product on Instagram, it sends them to your Squarespace site. You can't use Meta's payment system. Okay, well, Meta, as of April 24th, has set it up so that is the only payment platform that they will permit when you buy anything through Facebook or Instagram. You have to use their checkout system, essentially, and then push the orders to your website. And that was announced like almost a year ago. Like, that's been kind of coming down the pipeline. And apparently Squarespace has failed to fix this integration. What the heck? I mean, that's kind of a big thing. Instagram becomes, for me at this point, I guess it doesn't make a huge difference because I don't have any sales. But if you're like somebody who sells things through Instagram and that's, not fixed, then you've essentially just broken a mainstream of revenue because they've failed to update their API. It's like, what the heck? And I message them and I'm like, hey, this is going, what's the, the solution in place? And they're like, oh, it doesn't work. You'll have to get Meta to, release the money and all of that. And I'm like, so, okay, but, this change was made and it no longer lets you do that. So what, it's supposed to do? And then they're like, we can only provide help up to, what we have in our database, which has not been updated at all with this, change, even though this change has been coming down the pipe. And I was very frank in my little message to the help center when they said that. I was like, so you're telling me that you guys not only charge for this update, but then fail to have this update work with the new changes that have been coming down the pipe for a year. Okay, little pissed off. I mean, seriously, I was like, I purposely made this upgrade to do that, and you're telling me it doesn't work, period. There is no point in having this extra little plan to sell on Instagram because you guys have failed to keep your software interface updated. Like, oh my God, I was so mad. And of course, their, refund, it was like, I'm this close to like leaving your little, like, despite the time I spent setting up my website, I'm this close to like leaving Squarespace. And I may end up doing that at the end of the, when my subscription is up. I was just so mad. So, because they, of course, only offer refunds within that 14-day window. So, I mean, at least I was able to get my money back for that upgrade, and just, they downgraded me back. But I was just so mad. I'm like, that makes no sense, Squarespace. You've had plenty of time. Do other platforms have this issue? I feel like others have kind of integrated. I mean, I know it kind of sucks that Meta has locked this down. It's not a good look on their side. But they at least gave you a, close to a year's warning. That's plenty of time to try and fix it. And I know there's other platforms you can do. I don't really want to deal with WordPress and WooCommerce. I want to try and streamline things as much as possible, because I'm one of those people where it's like I can tinker with a website design forever. I used to do it when I was younger, so it's like I know myself. It's like I had it set up, it was working, I had all that information in there, and now I can't use it. Say nothing of the fact that I had bought, a specific design for Squarespace and all of that. So that's like money down the drain if I were to change platforms now. So I'm quite frustrated about it. So that's just kind of me rambling that at this point, if you're wanting to open up a shop and you definitely want to try and use social media as like a, purchase and social media platform, I don't recommend Squarespace. It clearly does not integrate at this point, and they need to get their stuff together. I know TikTok is also a platform you can play with. I mean, things are kind of up in the air with laws and all of this at this point, but it doesn't really matter because I tried to some of that shopping back in like November, and like ended up with my shopping like instantly suspended. I can't for the life of me figure out what the problem is, and could never get it reinstated. Their customer service sucks just as much as Etsy's, and in terms of like, why shops go down. So it's like, so that's not a platform that I can, look into selling. So it's just one of those where it's like, just try and drive people to my link in bio, which is, to my store. Yeah, it's a little bit of a ramble today, but so that's kind of, things that have been going on. I hope to, be able to show off more art in, the next couple of months. If there's anything specific you guys are looking for or wanting me to try and experiment with, be sure to leave a comment below. I've had a couple of comments recently on my Cricut tutorial videos about trying to, like, does this work for an A4? Or, if you're having issues like it's saying the mat size is incorrect. If you're doing the first video, which is the one where you're basically, you're telling, you need to set the sticker area to be like the, tabloid sheet, and you're telling it that you're going to use a 12 by 24 mat, but it's not going to go down far enough for that, so you can, even though you're telling it that, you can still use a 12 by 12 mat and it will work just fine. As for like A4 paper, I'm not familiar with European printers, but I assume it would be about the same. You would have it cut a rectangle the size of an A4 piece of paper, and again, tell your printer to print 100% on an A4 sheet of paper. Feel like it just swap letter size to A4 and it should work. And though if any of like my international viewers have had problems or know otherwise, please feel free to leave a comment. And I think that's pretty much it. So thanks for, hanging out and just kind of listening to my updates and my rants. And if you like more content like this, please feel free to tap the like button and the subscribe button, or leave me a little note below. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.